Inside the Galaxy Council Hall, the air felt heavy like gravity was doubled. Banners of 214 alien governments floated in the artificial wind. Glowing lights reflected on polished metal floors, and thousands of alien eyes stared at one small platform in the center, where one human woman stood completely alone while every other delegate sat behind armored walls and glass pods. And even the guards around the hall held rifles powered by Starcore energy, ready to fire at anything that moved the wrong way, and above everything a massive holo screen showed the words emergency session in red letters that kept blinking like a heartbeat of the galaxy itself. And many species whispered that humans would finally learn their place today because the Council High Speaker had called this session with one purpose only: to force Earth into permanent tribute, to make humanity pay the price of their fast growth and unstoppable creativity, because aliens feared the way humans jumped from Stone Age to Star Age in less than 1,000 years, something no species had ever done in history, and now the Council believed the only way to control humans was to chain them with economic tribute forever. So they never rise again, never challenge the balance, never become the new empire, and as the session began, the Council High Speaker, a massive creature with 4 eyes and a voice like breaking metal, stepped into the center of his podium and raised his staff to silence the room and screens around. The hall changed to show Earth spinning slowly in the black void of space, blue oceans shining like hope, white clouds moving like soft breath, and continents glowing with cities and life, while thousands of alien ambassadors stared at the planet like hunters looking at their future prey, and the High Speaker spoke the first words of the day: Earth must pay tribute. Every year. Forever. Ships. Resources. Soldiers. Tribute is the only way to keep balance. The words echoed across the chamber like thunder, and thousands of alien ears and antennae twitched with excitement. Some species smiled with open teeth and others hissed. Some knocked their tables in agreement, because to them, tribute sounded like victory, like control, like power over the youngest star nation, and many believed humans would obey, like every species who joined the Council in the last 6,000 years, because the Council represented unity, order, and control, and in their minds no species ever escaped that circle. But today they all faced the one species that never accepted chains, not even when it was weak. The human ambassador, Admiral Raina Holt, stood alone in the open floor with no shield, no guards, no defense drones, only a small datapad in her hand and the weight of an entire world on her shoulders. And she looked like a warrior who walked into a battlefield alone, her black uniform simple, her dark hair tied back, her silver eyes calm like quiet ocean water before a storm, and her face had no fear, no anger, no panic, only silence. But that silence was louder than every voice in the Council combined, because it made aliens nervous, it made them whisper, it made them wonder what humans were thinking, and whispers spread like smoke through the chamber. Humans are frightened, they know they are weak, they will pay, Earth is alone, they have no choice, and even the Council elites laughed softly under their breath, believing this silence was surrender, believing humans were already broken. But the truth was different. The silence was not fear, it was calculation. Raina Holt was not trying to speak first, she was listening like a hunter who hears every sound in the forest, like someone who already knows the next move before anyone else. Because she was not just an ambassador, she was a strategist, a soldier, the kind of human who built plans inside shadows, the kind of mind that did not react emotionally, but thought with cold precision, and while she stood silent, something unseen was already happening far above the Council chamber. Beyond the building, beyond the planet itself, because in the darkness of space around the Council homeworld, a network of hidden human satellites quietly switched online, waking from their silent sleep, activating invisible systems no one believed humans could build, camouflaged against starlight, silent like ghosts, and they began to mirror communication lines, copy security systems, listen to military channels, map every defense grid, scan every weapon, and every protocol, because Earth had not walked into the Council chamber blind. They had prepared for this moment long before the Council even announced the session. The High Speaker finished reading the tribute demand, and a silence fell over the entire chamber like someone cut the oxygen from the room, and all eyes turned to Raina, waiting for her to speak, waiting for her to beg for mercy, waiting for the human to accept her chains like every species before Earth. And the speaker finally said, "Human representative, state your answer." And billions of beings across the galaxy watched the scene through holo screens in their homes, in their cities, in Their warships, in their marketplaces, because the whole galaxy wanted to see a human kneel for the first time. But Reyna did not kneel. She did not bow. She did not speak for almost 10 seconds. She only looked directly into the eyes of the high speaker, then looked directly into the camera broadcasting to billions, and her voice came out calm, steady, powerful, without tremble. We do not pay tribute. We pay our debts. And you are the ones who owe. The chamber exploded with noise. Hundreds of ambassadors shouted at once. Some stood from their seats. Some slammed their tables. Alarms flashed on screens, and even the military guards took positions. Because the sentence was not just refusal. It was accusation. It said the council took from humanity. It said humans were equal or even higher. It was a slap made from words, and silence was gone, replaced by chaos. The high speaker pounded his staff on the podium again and again to silence the crowd, but the noise continued, and Reyna did not wait for the chaos to stop. She simply turned around and walked toward the exit platform, leaving with her back facing hundreds of soldiers who aimed weapons at her. But she did not look afraid. She walked like a queen leaving her own hall, and as she walked, half the council tried to stop her. Security systems activated. Doors locked. Drones flew forward to block her path. The floor lights turned red. But in that exact moment every system froze, every weapon turned off, every drone fell silent. Doors unlocked by themselves. The screen warnings disappeared, and control rooms across the building went dark. The operators screaming that their systems were hacked, that their passwords did not work, that cameras were blind, and nobody understood how. Because the council believed humans had no access to their private defense networks. But they were wrong. The silent human AI hidden in satellites above the world had already entered every layer of the council digital heart. Not to fire, not to kill, but to show a message: humans are not powerless. Reyna walked through the hall as thousands watched, powerless. And even the guards could not move their weapons because their suits were frozen by the human hack. And aliens stared with pure panic in their eyes, because nothing like this ever happened in council history. No species had ever walked out of a demand session like this. No species had ever hacked internal systems. No species had ever turned the council's own security into stone without firing a shot. And that fear was different from fear of war. It was fear of the unknown, fear of intelligent power, fear of something they could not predict. Reyna stepped onto the flight platform. Lights flickered around her. The glass doors opened by themselves, and her transport ship waited with engines quiet like a whisper. And she entered without saying another word, leaving the council shaking, leaving the galaxy confused, leaving billions of alien citizens wondering what she meant by UO. Because nobody knew the hidden history between humans and the council. Nobody knew the council had erased records from thousands of years ago. Nobody knew humanity helped dying empires without asking anything in return. Nobody knew humans fought ancient wars that saved worlds that now betrayed Earth. And nobody in the chamber wanted civilians to know the truth. As Reyna's ship lifted into the sky, the council tried to restart systems. Alarms roared. Commanders yelled into communication lines. But their words went nowhere because the human AI had left them deaf for one full minute. A minute that felt like eternity. A minute where every species realized the galaxy they thought they controlled now had a ghost standing behind them. A ghost named Earth. Reyna's ship climbed above the atmosphere into the darkness of space, away from cameras, away from council power, and she looked down at the glowing world below, her eyes reflecting the light of the council city, and she whispered softly to herself the words no one else could hear: "You want tribute, but you forgot your debt." And her mind worked like a star map, thinking of every friend and every enemy Earth had, thinking of the secret fleet hidden in deep space, thinking of the ancient agreements signed in shadows, thinking of the council soldiers who never knew humans saved their ancestors. And she knew this was not the end. This was the opening of a war of truth. A war that would not be won by fire only, but by history, by knowledge, by showing the galaxy what the council tried to bury. In the council chamber, the high speaker finally restored control, his face burning with anger and confusion, his voice shaking as he ordered a full investigation into how humans hacked their systems. And some ambassadors demanded immediate war, shouting that humans were dangerous, unpredictable, too fast, too brave, exactly what they said earlier. But some others sat silent, thinking deeply, remembering rumors from old eras, remembering stories their grandparents told them, remembering warnings from lost civilizations who disappeared before the council was born, warnings that said, never try to chain humans, never force them into tribute, never try to crush their freedom. Because humans do not break, they rise. Billions of people across thousands of worlds watched the recorded message again and again, sharing it like wildfire, questioning what Raina meant, and somewhere, in small homes and large cities, alien civilians started asking questions their governments never wanted them to ask. Because if humans do not pay tribute, and if humans talk about old debts, then maybe the council was not telling the whole truth. Raina's silence had done something bigger than any speech. It planted doubt, and doubt was the enemy of control. Far away, hidden in a dark star system outside the maps, the secret human fleet waited in black silence. Massive ships like iron mountains floating in the void, their engines cold, their weapons silent, their metal skins absorbing stars, built not for conquest, but for one promise written on every hull: resistance at all costs. And on Earth, every leader knew this moment would lead to something bigger, something unstoppable, because tribute was not just a demand. It was a declaration of war against human freedom, and humans were not a species that bowed to empires. They were the species that broke empires. The moment Raina Holt's ship vanished into the black sky, the Galaxy Council chamber turned into a storm. Voices hit like waves against metal walls. Ambassadors shouted over each other. Some demanded immediate war, some demanded investigation. Some just stared silently at the door where the human representative had walked out like a queen leaving her own court. And the High Speaker slammed his staff again and again to control the madness. But nothing worked because fear had entered the room like poison. Fear that humans were not weak. Fear that humans had plans inside darkness. Fear that humans could break systems built over 6,000 years. And that fear was louder than any speech. While in the control rooms hidden under the council building, engineers tried to restart security systems, their hands shaking, sweat falling on consoles as they whispered that they had never seen a hack this perfect, this clean, this quiet. Because human AI did not leave a single trace. It came like wind and left like dust, and generals in the war command argued with cyber experts, accusing each other of failure, while nobody wanted to say the simple truth. Humans outsmarted them. Humans prepared before the council even spoke. Humans turned the most protected digital fortress into a broken door with invisible keys. Above the planet, council news channels ran emergency broadcasts, each channel repeating the same 5 seconds of Raina's reply: "We do not pay tribute. We pay our debts. And you are the ones who owe." And billions watched those words again and again, sharing them, slowing them, reading her eyes, reading her calm face, and in marketplaces across alien worlds, civilians whispered to each other that maybe the council was hiding something. Because no species speaks like that without reason. No species threatens the most powerful government in the galaxy unless they have truth in their hands. In one corner of the council building, a young alien diplomat named Saren Val found something strange in the old archive system that the human hack accidentally unlocked for a few seconds. A locked file from 4,000 years ago marked "Human Intervention." Saren's hands trembled as he opened the file, expecting military reports, but instead he found ancient recordings, grainy images of human warships defending a dying empire from a star-eating superweapon. Human soldiers fighting side by side with species that no longer exist. And files showing humans saving 3 worlds that would later join the council and become powerful members. Yet none of those worlds ever told the truth. None of those worlds mentioned humanity when they became rich and powerful. They erased history and pretended they climbed alone, and Saren scrolled through pages until he found something unbelievable. Humans refused tribute then too. They helped without taking anything. They paid for ships with their own losses. They paid with their own soldiers. And when the war ended, they did not demand payment. They only asked for one promise: protect the weak. Saren stared at the screen, his heart heavy because this truth was never taught in schools, never shown in museums, never spoken in council history, and he realized the council built a lie so big that even its own members believed it. A lie that humans were new and dangerous, when the truth was humans were ancient and wounded. Meanwhile, outside the building, protests started, first small then spreading like fire across communication networks. Young aliens in the streets asked why the council demanded tribute from a species that helped others before, asked why public history shows humans as aggressive while hidden history shows humans as protectors. And the council tried to shut down the protests by blocking the files, but it was too late. Someone had copied them in the few seconds the archive was open, and now small. Clips of ancient human soldiers fighting beside alien children were trending across the galaxy, making citizens cry, making them question everything. Back in the chamber, an older ambassador from the Car species, a stone-skinned race known for memory, stood slowly while chaos continued, raising his hand and speaking with a heavy voice that cut through the noise because he was respected even by enemies. "We have seen this before, we ignored warnings, and now we stand in the same place again." And everyone stared at him, confused, and he continued. "Our grandfathers told stories of humans who came like storms, who fought not for land but for justice, who never accepted tribute, who never took slaves, who never demanded gold, but only freedom for others, and we called those stories myths. We erased them, and now they return in front of our eyes." His words spread chills through the room because this was no young voice. This was a voice of history, and many ambassadors felt their hearts shake because deep inside they remembered old songs, old bedtime stories, old warnings that old ones told before council erased everything. And now those warnings walked back into the present wearing the face of Admiral Rainer Holt. In another hidden office, political advisors panicked, trying to explain how humans built advanced satellites without the council knowing, trying to guess how humans jumped technology levels so fast, trying to guess whether humans had secret allies in regions outside council territory. And fear grew again because everything humans did today felt designed, planned, calculated, like they had seen this demand coming months before the council even proposed it, like they were already playing a game. The council did not understand. In remote planets, small communities started sending messages to Earth, unofficial, quiet, whisper messages saying they remember human help, they remember human sacrifice, and they will not support tribute war, and those messages were intercepted by council intelligence, making generals realize the war would not be simple if they attacked Earth, because millions of civilians would stand with humans. In a dark corner of the council city, a secret meeting happened between three powerful species who feared the truth more than war. They decided that destroying the ancient files was the only way to protect their power, and they ordered all archive records related to old wars to be deleted permanently. But Seren Val already made a private copy on a tiny data shard hidden inside his clothes, and he walked toward the exit of the building with his heart beating fast, knowing he carried the truth. The council tried to bury for 4,000 years. Outside the window of the council shipyard, engineers saw their huge warships being prepared, ships with weapons enough to destroy continents. Yet they felt no pride today, only confusion, because they did not know if they were preparing for a war against a monster or against a protector. Back on Earth, leaders gathered in a quiet underground chamber, old stone walls mixed with high technology, screens showing protests across alien worlds, and the president of Earth asked one question to the room: "Do we fight to survive or to teach the truth?" And Rainer Holt's voice came through a holo call, tired but controlled, saying, "We do both, but we start with the truth." And she explained everything she saw in the council, everything she saw in their eyes. The hate, the fear, the lies, the hunger for control, and she said something that made everyone silent. "They do not fear our weapons, they fear our history." And she showed the old files Seren Val copied because human AI intercepted it before deletion. And the room watched ancient humans fighting alien enemies shoulder to shoulder with species that now called humans dangerous. And some of the leaders cried watching names of human soldiers who died for worlds that now voted tribute against Earth. The scene cut to an alien home on a small moon where a family watched the old files on a small screen, their child asking, "Why did the council hide this?" And the parents had no answer because they believed the council never lied. Yet now the truth showed human blood on their soil, a truth older than any council law. Meanwhile, the High Speaker made a desperate speech to the galaxy trying to paint humans as aggressors for hacking, calling it an attack, and calling Rainer's words dangerous. But his voice sounded hollow because the galaxy had already seen his fear when systems froze, and civilians across thousands of planets mocked his speech with comments like, "If tribute is peace, why is truth so scary? And if humans are weak, why are you afraid of them?" And those comments spread faster than his speech itself, turning into a storm of doubt that no government could stop. Back in the chamber, the younger ambassadors looked at the older ones, realizing for the first time that maybe the council was not the hero in every story. Maybe history was written by winners, not truth, and one young ambassador whispered quietly, "If they helped us once, why do we demand tribute now?" And nobody could answer, because there was no answer that sounded like justice. In deep space, the secret human fleet received a message from Earth Command with only 4 words: "Begin Phase 2 slowly," meaning the war was not a war of fire yet. It was a war of information, a war of awakening minds, a war to show a galaxy the truth it forgot. And the human fleet stayed silent, engines off, hiding like shadows around distant stars. Waiting for the right moment, Because humans understood that the strongest weapon is not guns. It is truth. It is unity. It is making enemies question their leaders. Back on the council planet, Saren reached his small apartment, closed the door, held the data shard, and cried quietly because he knew the truth he carried was bigger than him, dangerous for him, maybe deadly. But he also knew the galaxy deserved to know, and his hands shook as he sent the data to one trusted friend on a distant planet, starting a chain reaction that would change everything. And in the council chamber, while the high speaker continued shouting about tribute and control, the stained glass windows reflected the empty space where Raina Holt had stood, one human against 214 species, and her silence echoed like thunder in the minds of everyone present, because they realized something terrifying. She did not threaten them with war, she threatened them with history, and history is something no weapon can kill. When night fell on Earth, it did not feel like a normal night. The sky above every city looked quiet and beautiful, stars shining like small diamonds over blue oceans and tall mountains. But beneath that soft beauty, a storm was forming, meetings continued without sleep, leaders spoke without raising their voices. Military commanders watched silent holograms showing council fleets gathering in border zones, and people around the world stared at news screens showing the same scene again and again. Raina Holt standing alone against the Galaxy Council, her voice calm while millions screamed around her, and her sentence became a fire that burned through every mind. We do not pay tribute. We pay our debts. And you are the ones who owe. Those words spread through cities like electricity. People in coffee shops repeated it. Children whispered it in classrooms. Soldiers wrote it on their helmets. Workers painted it on street walls with cheap paint. Because they understood something deep. Earth was not kneeling tonight. Earth was rising. And that rise felt bigger than war, bigger than politics. It felt like history waking up from a long sleep. And everyone felt they were part of something ancient returning to life. Far away in the cold darkness of space, a hidden star system glowed faintly with deep red light from a dying sun, and orbiting that sun, thousands of human warships floated like sleeping giants. Their surfaces dark black mixed with silver scars from old battles, some ships older than any council record, because humans built them in silence over decades, piece by piece. Using deep-core mining robots and asteroid forges hidden inside magnetic clouds where scanners failed, and the ships had one name painted in their hearts. The Iron Resistance, not an army built for attack, but a promise built for survival. A promise that if the Council ever tried to chain Earth, humanity would resist at all costs, not with tribute but with truth and steel. And inside the command ship, an old admiral named Jonas Krell, a man with white hair and burned skin from old wars, stood looking at the hologram of the council stance, his breath slow, his eyes hard, and beside him a young officer whispered, "They think Earth is alone," and Krell replied without turning his head, "They never learned who taught us to fight." And he touched a panel, showing a map with small glowing dots representing secret allies scattered across forgotten sectors. Meanwhile in Earth's main government chamber, the president stood over a table with leaders of different nations, old rivals now forced to work together. Their hands shaking not from fear but from the weight of destiny, because Earth never united perfectly before, but now the galaxy demanded tribute from all humans, not one country, not one flag, and that pressure forced unity like no treaty could, and instead of dividing, tribute demand welded Earth like a single blade. In the lower floors of the building, civilian broadcast teams prepared a message, not to attack the Council, not to provoke war, but to speak directly to alien civilians across the galaxy. A message written by Raina Holt herself, simple words that could cut through propaganda like glass, and when the broadcast began, small screens in alien homes lit up with the face of a human child holding a white flag in her hand, not as surrender but as symbol of peace, and her young voice said slowly, "We are not your tribute. We are your equal." And that sentence hit hearts harder than any weapon, because it came from innocence, from truth without anger, and millions of alien civilians, mothers, fathers, students, soldiers, felt something new, shame, because they realized they never asked why humans were called dangerous. They simply believed council voices like children believe old stories, and now a child from Earth spoke with a brave, calm voice, not demanding fear but asking respect. Within hours, protests started on council worlds, small groups first, then thousands, then millions, young aliens holding signs with Raina's words, asking questions, asking for truth, asking why tribute should exist, Why a council that calls itself peace demands chains from someone who helped others in old wars. And the council panicked again. Using news channels to call the protests manipulation, calling humans clever liars, calling the files old and fake. But nothing worked because truth was spreading like rivers joining to the sea. On a distant planet full of deserts and brown mountains, the Car species held a private council of their own, elders carved from stone, bodies heavy like mountains, voices deep like thunder, and they spoke about something only their memory stones remembered. The human warship that saved Car children 4,000 years ago, the old record of a young human captain dying to protect a Car village from cosmic beasts. And the elders decided they could not join tribute war, not against the species. That saved their first home, and they prepared a secret message to Earth. When war starts, we stand beside truth, and they sent it through hidden channels. In the border systems near dead moons, the Yun merchants, a species known for trading rare metals, discussed their own memory logs showing humans gifting technology to help them escape starvation ages ago, and their leader whispered, "We owe them more than any tribute." And they quietly sent a message saying they would not support council fleets if war begins. In refugee stations floating around broken planets, star orphans from destroyed civilizations heard the human child message and remembered stories their grandparents told about humans rescuing dying worlds without asking anything in return. And they promised loyalty to Earth, not as soldiers but as witnesses, as voices ready to tell the galaxy what council hid for centuries. On the council capitol building, anger turned into fear when reports came from intelligence that dozens of small species refused to support tribute war, and in the private office. The High Speaker stared at a holomap showing yellow dots of protest growing like infection across worlds, and he realized something terrifying. Humans had not attacked, not fired, not threatened, yet they had won half the civilians with a single message, because humans were fighting with something the Council never feared before, something more dangerous than guns: truth. Meanwhile, in a dark room inside Earth's deep security bunker, Raina Holt sat with her hands open, looking at the old files from Saren Val, watching ancient human soldiers bleeding beside alien children, watching human warships die protecting worlds that later erased their names, and her eyes filled with silent tears, not just sadness, but a deep old pain, a pain that the galaxy forgot their sacrifice, that the galaxy now calls them dangerous while walking on ground humans saved. And she whispered to herself, "We do not want revenge, we want memory, because memory is justice for those forgotten." On a small moon shop, an old alien woman showed the ancient videos to children sitting on floor mats, telling them, these humans were heroes, and children watched with glowing eyes, asking, "Why did the Council hide this?" And the old woman answered, "Because power fears gratitude," and her voice was soft but heavy with wisdom. Back on the hidden human fleet, Jonas Krell watched the protests growing on intelligence screens, and his officers asked when they should reveal themselves, when they should strike, but he answered, "Not yet," because he understood this war was not about who has bigger ships, it was about who has bigger truth, and when truth wins hearts, weapons become last option, not first. The Council sent secret orders to their admirals to prepare a peace fleet, but everyone in Earth intelligence knew it means intimidation fleet, 400 warships gathering around Earth orbit soon, and soldiers on Earth prepared defensive grids quietly, without panic, because they believed Raina Holt's silence meant there is a deeper plan, something bigger than fear. Across the galaxy, quiet voices began turning into loud voices, students protested, merchants refused to sell tribute metals, small planetary governments questioned council laws, asking why tribute exists, asking who benefits from it, and those questions scared the council more than any missile could, because questions spread faster than warships fly. In cafes across alien cities, young people argued about humans, some still feared them, some respected them, some doubted everything they learned in school, and truth cracked the walls of propaganda like sunlight cracks through dark clouds, and that crack kept growing. In Earth's ocean cities, normal families sat together holding hands, listening to soft music while news played Raina Holt's voice again, and they did not feel despair, they felt unity, something they never felt before, because tribute demand did not break Earth, it forged Earth like steel. In the Council Royal Hall, the High Speaker tried to regain control, ordering censorship, blocking videos, arresting protest leaders, deleting files, but each deletion created 10 new copies. Each arrest created 10 more protesters, because truth was now free, outside control. Raina Holt stood at the ocean edge on Earth, wind moving her hair, her eyes on the stars, knowing Council would attack soon. But she smiled, not because she wanted war, but because she saw something the Council could not see. Humans were not alone, even without fleets beside them, even without allies signing formal documents, they were not alone, because truth is the strongest ally in any galaxy. And in hidden caves of ancient Ka mountains, elders carved one new line into memory stone. If tribute is demanded again, we resist with humans, and that carved stone will live longer than any Council law. Jonas Krell received another quiet message from Earth Command. Truth worked, and he whispered, "Then war is already different." And he walked through the bridge of his ship, touching metal walls like greeting old friends. Because these ships were not machines. They were symbols of a promise made by those who died in forgotten wars, a promise that humanity will never kneel. And as stars moved across black space like slow rivers, the galaxy began to change slowly, quietly, emotionally, not with explosions, but with doubt. And doubt inside hearts is like fire inside dry grass. It travels fast. Raina Holt's silence had planted something bigger than fear, bigger than the Council. She planted memory, and memory was now walking through every street, every school, every home, spreading a question that no government could kill. Why did humans help us once, and why do we demand tribute now? And as dawn rose over Earth again, golden light touching oceans and cities, every human woke with the same thought. Earth is not paying tribute. Not with money, not with soldiers, because humanity has something more valuable than tribute to give the galaxy, truth of who they really are, and truth can change everything. The Council moved fast after seeing their worlds wake up with protest signs instead of silence. They believed fear needed to be shown before truth grew too big, so they called a military operation a peace demonstration, using soft words to hide sharp knives. And they sent 400 warships toward Earth with banners of peace painted on hulls while missile ports were hidden. Under those banners like wolves wearing sheepskin, and the galaxy watched those ships crossing star lanes, huge shadows sliding across suns, engines burning blue trails through dark space like slow smoke, screens everywhere showing the fleet moving, commentators calling it a simple pressure tactic, a political move, nothing more, but inside every heart, both human and alien, something felt wrong because peace never arrives with guns so big they look like moving mountains. And when the fleet entered the edge of Sol system, Earth did not panic like the Council expected. Cities did not scream. Soldiers did not rush. Leaders did not cry. Instead, Earth became silent. The kind of silence before storms explode. The kind of silence when everyone holds breath at the same time. And in a huge room under the Rocky Mountains, Raina Holt watched the incoming fleet hologram with eyes that did not blink for 30 seconds. Then she whispered, "They think fear is stronger than memory," and turned to her engineers, giving quiet instructions with calm voice, not shouting, not rushing, because she knew the next moment would change everything without firing a single shot. And above Earth, the first Council ships arrived, massive white ships like floating castles with glowing shields, each ship carrying more firepower than all of Earth's old armies combined. And they lined up across the sky like a metal sunrise, blocking stars and turning day into shadow, their commanders broadcasting a soft message. This is not war. This is pressure. Comply with tribute demands so peace can continue. And screens on Earth flashed with those words while billions watched, old people shaking heads, young children asking why peace comes with threats, and the Council commanders expected humans to show fear, to send diplomats begging for time. Expected Earth to kneel in front of metal. But Earth did not kneel, Earth waited, and then something impossible happened. Something no one planned for in Council strategy models. Something no computer predicted. The entire fleet powered down in one instant, all engines silent, all weapons offline, all shields gone. Lights inside ships turning dark like someone pulled the universe's switch. Hundreds of warships became cold stones hanging in sky, frozen like statues, silent like ghosts, with soldiers inside panicking because their controls did not work, their systems did not respond, their screens showed nothing but black, and they shouted reports to commanders but no one heard their voices. Because communication died too, and for a long minute the galaxy held its breath. No gun fired, no weapon moved, no explosion, only silence, the most dangerous silence in history. And then a soft voice came from Earth's global broadcast, not angry, not loud, but heavy with power. "We learned this from you. You enslave resources. We free energy," and that sentence confused millions, scared millions, woke millions. because it meant humans understood Council technology better than Council itself. It meant humans turned the fleet off like a toy. It meant the balance of power was not guns anymore but knowledge, and that scared the Council more than any weapon could, because knowledge spreads faster than fear. Inside the Council flagship, high generals looked at dead screens, sweating, shouting at technicians, smashing consoles, thinking Earth hacked their core reactors, thinking humans could kill the fleet in seconds. But Earth did not kill them. Earth let them float like heavy feathers, a warning without fire, a message without blood. Because Earth did not want to destroy, Earth wanted the galaxy to see one truth clearly. Strength is not always violence. It is control, it is choice, it is knowing. You can destroy but choosing not to, and commanders of Council ships stared at dark weapons with fear in their eyes. For the first time realizing the army built to force tribute could not even turn on its guns, making their power look fake, like children playing war. On every alien world, screens replayed the moment the fleet went dark, showing warships drifting like leaves, showing silence heavier than explosions, and civilians asked one question again and again. If humans are dangerous, why did they not attack? And parents told children. Because danger is not the same as evil, and those words created a crack in the Council's wall of lies, a crack too wide to close. In the Council war room, the High Speaker screamed for emergency retaliation, demanding missiles, demanding force, but his generals looked at him with pale faces because their weapons did not work, their systems offline, their fear exposed, and someone whispered, if they wanted war, we would already be gone. And that sentence cut the High Speaker deeper than any blade, because it was truth, and truth is painful when your power is built on lies. Raina Holt stood in the command room on Earth, everyone staring at her waiting for next move. But she gave no victory speech. She just said, let them go. And technicians restored power to the Council fleet slowly, without damage, and engines lit again like small suns waking from sleep, and warships regained control. Soldiers shouting in confusion, and a flood of new emotions washed through their veins. Because they realized in that moment they were alive only because humans decided they should be alive, not because their shields saved them, not because their guns protected them, but because humans gave mercy, a mercy they did not expect, a mercy they never planned for, and that mercy turned into humiliation inside Council pride, burning like acid. When the fleet left Earth orbit slowly, command voices broken and silent, returning to Council territory with speed slower than normal because fear slows hands. The galaxy watched warships shrink into distance like falling stars leaving shame behind. And Earth cities did not celebrate with fireworks. They did not scream victory. They did not dance. They stayed silent. The same silence they held when warships arrived. Because humans understood this was not a win. This was a message that would echo across stars. A message that strength is not forcing tribute. It is refusing to pay tribute with dignity. On Council planets, protesters multiplied, holding new signs, no tribute. Only justice. If humans can spare lives, why can't the Council? And soldiers who returned from Earth orbit became silent witnesses, telling families about the moment the fleet died without a shot. Telling children how humans could have killed them but didn't. And those stories spread through bars, cafes, schools, creating a deep question that no Council leader wanted to hear. Who is the real protector? In the deep chambers of Council power, panic replaced anger, strategy replaced pride, and for the first time in centuries, the Council felt fragile. Their control broken not by war but by mercy, because mercy reveals weakness in tyrants, and silence reveals truth behind loud voices. Raina Holt walked alone on Earth's coastline again, moonlight touching waves like silver paint, wind moving her hair like soft hands of old memories, and she closed her eyes, feeling the weight of every decision, knowing the next steps would be harder, knowing mercy creates enemies inside proud hearts, knowing the Council would not accept humiliation quietly, knowing truth started a fire but power always tries to put fire out with violence. And she whispered to the ocean, they thought tribute is control. They forgot control without respect is fear, and fear always breaks. In the hidden star system, Jonas Krell looked at the data showing the fleet shutdown moment. His crew shocked, cheering quietly, but he did not smile like a winner. He smiled like a teacher seeing old students finally understand, and he told them, the Council will come again. This time with rage, and officers nodded with heavy eyes because they understood the next move would not be peace talk. It would be full war, a war not just for territory, but for history itself, for the right to decide what galaxy remembers in the next 1,000 years. Across alien worlds, young civilians questioned everything they were taught in school, asking teachers why textbooks show humans only as aggressive species when ancient evidence shows humans as rescuers, asking why council archives hide whole sections of history, asking why tribute is demanded from a species that helped dying planets, and those questions spread like seeds on wind, landing in minds of millions, growing roots of doubt that no propaganda could kill, because once a question is planted in heart, no fear can remove it. In private rooms, council leaders spoke in low voices, planning revenge, planning destruction of Earth's secret technology, planning war, because humiliation is a poison for powerful men, and they could not accept that a species they tried to control turned their fleet into silent statues with invisible hands, and they agreed on one thing. Attack must be total, fast, brutal, before more allies join Earth, before more truth spreads across galaxy, and they called it Operation Tribute Enforcement. Hiding the real name, the Breaker of Earth. On Earth, Raina Holt received intelligence of the plan hours before it was even finalized, thanks to quiet voices inside Council who saw truth and sent warnings. Voices like Saren Val risking his life to stop a war he did not believe in. And Raina read the report with heavy heart, understanding that mercy given today would be answered with cruelty tomorrow, understanding that Council pride was hurt deeper than any weapon could hurt. And she told Earth leaders, "We did not make mistake, we showed who we are, now we prepare for who they are." And her voice carried both sadness and fire. Sadness that truth needs war to breathe, and fire that humans will not run, not hide, not kneel. The shutdown of Council fleet became the most watched event in galaxy history, billions replaying it like a legend being born in real time, parents telling children. Remember this is how a small world told a big empire no, and old veterans whispering. This is how wars begin and how peace returns only after blood cleans lies. And stars kept moving, silent and slow, like witnesses to ancient stories returning in new form. And somewhere in quiet, dark, deep space, the hidden Iron Resistance fleet turned its engines on for the first time in years. Slow blue light glowing on metal skin like cold fire waking from sleep, not to attack, but to take position, because the Council's show of force was a mistake that revealed fear instead of strength, and humans knew the next blow would not be soft threats or frozen fleets, it would be war screaming loud. And Raina Holt looked at the star map with eyes like steel. Whispering one last line into the dark, they asked for tribute. We gave mercy. Now they will come for blood. And we will resist at all costs. The Council's humiliation in Earth orbit spread like poison inside their pride, and powerful leaders who ruled planets with iron laws could not sleep at night, not because humans attacked them, but because humans chose not to attack when they could have killed thousands, and that mercy felt like a slap across centuries of arrogance. So they gathered again in the Grand Chamber, guards standing like statues, screens showing angry faces, and ambassadors speaking in sharp voices, demanding revenge, demanding punishment, demanding tribute through force, and the High Speaker stood in front of them with eyes full of burning shame, his voice shaking with rage as he shouted that humanity must be crushed before more species remember old debts, before more students question school history, before more civilians protest in streets, before truth destroys the order built over 6,000 years, and he raised his hand to call the final vote for war, every ambassador touching their table surface. Glowing lights showing their decision, some voting with shaking hands because they saw ancient human files, some voting with cold eyes because power meant more than truth to them. And in one slow minute the results appeared on giant screen flashing red word after red word, war, 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 the screen showing total majority. War against Earth, and silence fell like a stone. Silence so heavy it felt like deep water pressing on lungs. And across the galaxy the broadcast spread like lightning. Billions watching the Council declare war on a world that just saved their fleet one day ago. Billions hearing the words, war against Earth. Total compliance, and children cried, old people whispered prayers, young students shouted with anger, asking why peace died so fast, asking why Council chose blood instead of truth. And in dark corners of many worlds, quiet spies sent warning messages to Earth saying the attack would be fast, brutal, massive. And in Earth's underground command room, Raina Holt watched the war vote without blinking, her fingers tight against table edge, her heart a storm but her face still ocean calm. And she turned to Earth leaders saying, they have chosen their answer. Now we answer with everything we are. And her voice carried pain not for herself but for billions who would suffer because truth challenged power. Outside government walls, Earth did not panic, streets did not turn wild, people did not scream. They held each other. They collected food, they opened shelters, they prepared hospitals, they cleaned schools, because they knew war now was not about winning pride. It was about protecting life, and that quiet preparation was more powerful than any war speech, because fear did not control Earth, duty did. In secret vaults under Australian desert, ancient weapon prototypes woke from sleep, giant cylinders humming with blue energy, old engineers crying when they touched machines built by their grandparents in secret. Technology humans never showed the galaxy, because humans believed peace comes from cooperation, not from intimidation. But now peace was being killed, so humans unlocked the weapons of last resort, not to attack first, but to make sure if Council arrives with fire, humanity will not disappear in silence. In refugee stations across space, thousands of small species sent coded messages to Earth saying they refused to fight against truth, and Jonas Krell on the Iron Resistance flagship read each message slowly, his hands shaking because he remembered these species from old wars, remembered their ancestors dying beside humans, remembered their screams, remembered their courage, and he told his officers, "The galaxy remembers slowly, but it remembers," and he ordered fleet movement into hidden positions between stars, not to strike first, but to protect allies when war begins. On Council worlds, protests became riots, military units forced to block streets, civilians throwing papers with Rayna's words printed on them, shouting that tribute is slavery with decorative words, shouting that war against Earth is war against history, shouting that the Council is afraid of truth, not humans. And those shouts hit the Council heart harder than any missile explosion could, because when civilians see the truth, empires crack from inside, not outside. In the Council Military Assembly, the High Speaker ordered full mobilization, thousands of warships turning engines on, millions of soldiers taken from homes, families crying in train stations, children holding their parents' hands while soldiers walked away knowing they might never return. But nobody questioned orders because fear is a strong chain, and propaganda told them Earth is dangerous monster, painted humans as threat to galaxy unity. And some soldiers believed it with empty hearts. Because they never saw old files, never saw human mercy, only saw Council fear. In Earth cities, the air was different, heavy but proud, quiet but strong, because every human felt they were standing on a line drawn by their ancestors, a line that said, "Never kneel to chains, never kneel to tribute, never kneel to those who erase your sacrifice." And old veterans walked into training centers with canes in hands and fire in eyes. Teenagers signed defense programs without hesitation. Mothers taught children emergency drills while telling stories of courage, not fear, and fathers packed medical kits for neighbors, because humans understood that surviving together is stronger than fighting alone. Rayna Holt prepared Earth's answer, a message written for the entire galaxy, short and sharp like arrow. "If you attack Earth, we resist at all costs, not to survive, but to make sure you never ask tribute again." And that sentence reached every screen in every city across stars, making civilians gasp, making soldiers stop mid-step, because humans were not fighting for land or money, they were fighting to destroy tribute forever, to erase it from galaxy history, and that purpose felt bigger than war. It felt like destiny. Then something happened that Council never expected, something that ripped their strategy apart. The Iron Resistance fleet uncloaked around the moon. Thousands of massive warships appearing like shadows turning into mountains. Black metal shining under sunlight like night turned to shape. Engines glowing like dying stars waking again. And Earth's moon became surrounded by silent giants. Ships built not with greed but with fear of chains. Ships built by generations of hidden engineers. Ships built in secret because humans always knew the day might come when truth is attacked by power. And Council scanners screamed in shock because they believed humans had 80 ships total. But now they saw 8,000, each one larger than Council dreadnoughts, each one built with technology stolen from stars, carved from asteroids, powered by cores Council never saw before, and panic exploded inside Council command rooms because their numbers meant nothing now. Their pride meant nothing now. Their predictions were dust. On alien worlds, civilians watched the fleet appear and cried without knowing why, because they were seeing history, not history in books but history in real time. Humans rising not as conquerors but as guardians of their own dignity, and young aliens whispered, "They built this in silence," and that silence felt like thunder louder than any army. In Council chamber, High Speaker screamed orders for immediate attack, but generals hesitated now, hesitation twisting their faces, because they saw something terrifying. Humans did not laugh, did not celebrate, did not show arrogance. They stood silent again. Same silence as Rayna Holt in Council Hall. Silence of people who do not play games. Silence of people who suffered old wounds. Silence of warriors who do not start war but finish war. And generals felt fear of truth more than fear of weapons. Rayna Holt stood in front of giant window inside Earth Command, watching the Iron Resistance fleet glowing around Moon like ring of steel hope, and for the first time a tear fell down her cheek, not because she wanted war, but because she saw human history written in metal, saw sacrifice of thousands of unknown engineers, saw dreams of children born under secret projects, saw scars of ancestors who fought old battles without recognition. And her voice shook as she whispered, "You called us. Unpredictable, yes we are. We are unpredictable because we do not kill when we can. We build when we are broken, we rise when we are erased." And she wiped her tear, turning eyes into cold fire, and said to her commanders, "Tell the galaxy this fleet is not for tribute. It is for ending tribute." And screens across stars lit up showing the Iron Resistance not as attackers but as circle of guardians around Earth, a circle saying no more chains. The Council's war vote felt heavy like stone falling on Galaxy Heart, but Earth's answer felt like wings breaking from stone, because humans did not just resist, they resisted for a purpose bigger than their planet, bigger than themselves. They resisted for every species once asked to pay tribute, for every world forgotten, for every soldier erased from history scrolls, and as stars watched the two sides prepare for war, the galaxy held breath again, knowing the next chapter would not be just battle of metal, but battle of truth versus fear, memory versus power, and Rayna Holt closed her eyes one last time before giving final readiness order, whispering to the ghosts of old wars, "At all costs, we resist." And in deep space Jonas Krell repeated the same line to his fleet, "At all costs." And thousands of human ships lit engines like blue suns exploding quietly, not screaming, not roaring, but whispering one promise to the universe. Humanity will not bow. The Council did not wait. Long after seeing the Iron Resistance fleet glowing around the Moon like a steel halo of defiance, their rage was too big to hold, their fear too sharp to hide, so they launched their first strike not where Earth expected, not against human cities or ships, but against Earth's secret allies, because they wanted to break the idea of unity before it became too strong. They targeted the smallest planets first, quiet worlds who sent messages of support to Earth, planets with old wounds and small populations, thinking that killing the weak would scare the strong, thinking that burning whisper voices would silence truth. So Council warships jumped into the systems of the Car Colony and the Orphan Star clusters, firing plasma storms at cities made of stone and homes made of thin metal, turning forests into dark smoke and sky into red screams. And the galaxy watched in horror as innocent children ran through fire while Council soldiers marched with flags of peace, calling the attack stabilization, calling burning houses order. And those words felt like knives in ears of every witness because peace was now wearing blood like a coat. And while fire swallowed small worlds, Earth Command screens showed the live feed. Rayna Holt's face turning pale as she watched children screaming in languages humans once protected in ancient wars. And her voice came out broken but sharp. They did not come for tribute, they came for silence. And she ordered the Iron Resistance to break formation, not to defend Earth, but to defend those allies dying now. Because humans did not build 8,000 ships to hide behind shields. They built them to stand for every weak voice that Council tried to erase. And within seconds the human fleet jumped through space corridors like silver needles tearing holes through night. Engines burning with blue fire, hulls reflecting dying suns, appearing above burning colonies before Council sensors even saw them coming, and human warships opened shields around cities. Absorbing fire meant for small children. Absorbing explosions meant for old people. Metal armor melting like candle wax while human soldiers screamed into microphones to save faster, sacrifice faster, bleed faster, because saving others was more important than saving metal. And Council commanders stared in shock as their fleet started falling apart without a single human shot fired, because human ships hacked their targeting systems again, turning missiles into dead stars floating in space, turning their guns into cold shadows, turning their pride into dust, and on every screen across galaxy, the world saw something Council never wanted shown. Humans choosing protection over survival, sacrificing their strongest fleet not for their planet, but for someone else's home, showing a truth older than any Council law. Humans fight for others more than they fight for themselves. In the middle of the battle, in a nebula glowing purple and blue like wounded sky, the largest Council dreadnought arrived, a monster of metal built to crush cities alone, a ship with guns enough to break moons, its captain shouting, "Erase them," thinking this moment would restore pride, thinking killing defenders would kill hope. But before the ship could fire, the dreadnought died without a sound, its lights going dark from inside, systems shutting down like a sleeping beast, and human. Intercept code left a soft message on its main screen. War should protect life, not harvest it. And the dreadnought drifted like a dead planet while smaller ships around it froze, unable to understand what happened, unable to believe that hacking could kill a monster built over 10 years. And all of Galaxy saw it live. No edits, no propaganda, raw truth like lightning in darkness. On burning ground of the Car colony, human soldiers in white armor ran through falling metal beams carrying alien children in their arms, their suits melting under plasma heat, their voices shaking, saying, "We got you, we got you." And alien parents cried seeing humans saving their future with their own bodies. And that image spread faster than any council lie, faster than fear, faster than war orders, because kindness under fire is louder than bullets, louder than speeches, louder than generations of propaganda. Back in Earth Command, Raina Holt watched feeds from Battlefield, tears falling without shame, because she saw her soldiers dying not in defense of their planet, but in defense of truth, dying to show Galaxy what humans are, and that pain felt bigger than any victory, heavier than any win, like carrying history on shoulders made of flesh not steel, and she whispered, "We do not kill to win, we protect to live." And those words became the soul of the resistance. Across the galaxy, civilians who once feared humans now held their screens with shaking hands, crying when they saw human marines form a shield circle around Car children, firing from behind their bodies to keep flames away, crying seeing human ships explode just to block incoming fire from hitting refugee towers, crying because they were told for years humans are monsters, but now they saw monsters wearing Council symbols, and protectors wearing human armor. On the Council capital, generals screamed that public perception was collapsing, that war must be faster and crueler, that humans are winning hearts while losing ships, and the High Speaker punched his table yelling that hearts do not win wars, guns do. But even he felt a cold wave in his chest because he saw truth breaking his empire like cracks breaking glass, and he knew no weapon can erase truth once it enters blood of Galaxy. In refugee camps near the battle, young Car girl recorded a short message crying with a human medic holding her hand. "Humans saved us when Council tried to kill us." And that message spread to billions within 1 hour, becoming a truth bomb exploding inside every household, burning Council lies like dry grass, turning fear into shame for those who supported war, and admiration for those who saw truth late but accepted it. In deep space, Jonas Krell's ship shook from heavy fire while he shouted orders with voice full of fury and pain, watching his strongest ships fall one by one to protect small planets. But he did not scream for revenge, he screamed, "Hold the shield, save them." Because he knew today was not about crushing Council. Today was about burning their lies in fire of sacrifice. Today was about showing Galaxy the price of truth. And his officers cried while working because they knew they might die. Today for someone they never met. But their hearts were proud because that is what humans did since ancient days. They bled for strangers. Back on Earth, cities watched the battle live, streets silent, mothers holding babies close, fathers whispering stories of bravery, children holding small flags with no symbol except one word. Human. Because this war was not about nations now, not about flags, not about languages. It was about being human together, and that unity felt like a song older than stars. When the battle ended, half of the Iron Resistance fleet around the colonies was destroyed, thousands of soldiers dead, ships turned into floating graveyards in nebula smoke. But planets were saved, children saved, culture saved, languages saved, truth saved, and that victory felt bittersweet like laughing and crying at the same time. Because humans won the hearts of Galaxy but lost the blood of their own children to do it. And the Council realized something even more terrifying than defeat. They did not just lose a fleet fight, they lost the story, they lost the moral ground, they lost the ability to call humans dangerous without being laughed at. Because now the Galaxy saw danger wearing their colors, not human colors, and shame is a wound that never heals in empires. In Earth's command room, Raina Holt spoke to Galaxy again. Voice tired, eyes red, but soul burning like star. Truth does not come free. Today we paid with lives to show you what tribute destroys. Today we fight not to kill you, but to save what you forgot. Humanity is not the threat. Humanity is the proof that peace needs courage. And those words became history the moment they reached speakers across worlds, because they were spoken by someone who just watched her soldiers die saving those who once asked tribute from her world, and that irony was too heavy for any mind to ignore. In the council chamber, leaders tried to invent new lies to hide their cruelty. But lies felt weak now, felt cheap, felt small, because truth was everywhere like water leaking through every wall. On thousands of planets, citizens formed long lines outside government buildings demanding vote again, demanding end to tribute, demanding peace with humans, demanding trial for those who ordered attack on innocent worlds, and council leaders felt something they never felt in 6,000 years, fear not of humans, but fear of their own people. In Jonas Krell's flagship, surviving soldiers cleaned blood from armor with shaking hands, whispering names of dead like prayers, and he stood alone looking at stars, knowing war would continue, knowing council would strike harder next time, but also knowing something beautiful. Humanity already won something bigger than territory. The galaxy saw who we are, and that truth can shake empires. And deep in her heart, Raina Holt felt pain of loss and pride of history at same time, closing her eyes before giving new order, whispering to the ghosts of those who died, "Your sacrifice is truth now." And in that moment the whole galaxy understood something council always feared. Humans are dangerous not because they destroy. Humans are dangerous because they choose who to save, even if it costs everything. When the fires of the first strike finally cooled and human ships drifted like broken stars around the saved colonies, the galaxy did not celebrate, it cried, because victory did not feel like a win. It felt like losing pieces of soul to protect something bigger than yourself, and across thousands of worlds, civilians lit candles for human soldiers they never met, whispering prayers in dozens of languages for the same reason. Gratitude, something the council always said humans did not deserve. But now gratitude rose like sunrise after longest night, and Raina Holt stood in Earth's command center surrounded by silent officers staring at empty screens showing lost ships, her eyes red but her voice steady as she whispered, "They paid with blood what history owed," because she understood that ancient debt humans spoke about was never money, never tribute. It was sacrifice forgotten by time, paid once long ago and now paid again to remind universe that honor is not a story, it is a wound we carry. In the council chamber, the High Speaker tried to start another war speech, calling humans criminals for hacking, for fighting, for resisting. But when he opened his mouth, no one listened, even generals lowered their eyes because truth now sat in every chair like invisible judge, watching every lie, and voices of civilian governors across worlds interrupted him, sending official demands to stop war, their message is strong. "We do not support tribute war, we refuse to fight people who saved our children. We demand truth and trial," and those words hit the chamber like lightning, destroying 6,000 years of untouchable power. Because the council was built on obedience, not choice, and now billions were choosing truth over fear. Saren Val, the young diplomat who carried the old files in his clothing, stood from his seat shaking. But his voice did not shake when he said, "The council knew humans helped ancient empires and they erased it. They took their history and turned it into threat. They asked tribute from the ones who paid with blood." And then he placed the small data shard on the podium and uploaded everything live to Galaxy Network, leaving no room for censorship, no time for deletion, showing ancient videos of human soldiers defending alien children, showing lists of human names who died protecting worlds now attacking Earth, showing council secret orders to hide files, showing speeches where old leaders agreed to erase human heroism so tribute system could exist, and the chamber filled with screams, not of anger at humans, but of shame at themselves, because they finally saw the truth with their own eyes. In homes across moons and planets, families watched ancient recordings and cried when they saw humans carrying alien babies out of burning buildings 4,000 years ago, cried when they saw council members shaking hands with humans and then erasing the handshake from history scrolls, cried because they were told humans wanted tribute. But truth showed humans refused tribute even then, refusing chains for others while now others tried to chain them, and that emotional storm broke the council from inside faster than any missile could break walls. The High Speaker tried to shout it was fake, tried to call it manipulation, but hundreds of ambassadors rose and shouted back that they recognized faces from their own archives, recognized locations in their own history, recognized medals hidden in forgotten museums, and one old ambassador from Yun race cried openly saying, "We ate bread grown from human sacrifice and then asked them to kneel," and that sentence became like fire, traveling through the hall, burning arrogance, and the council. Collapsed not with explosions but with silence, leaders resigning, guards removing symbols from uniforms, flags of tribute falling from walls like dead leaves, and the giant screens turned off, showing black reflection of everyone's guilt. Outside the chamber, millions of civilians flooded streets on council worlds, waving signs saying, "No tribute, truth is peace, honor the fallen humans," and some even painted Earth's symbol on their bodies, not as surrender to humans, but as apology for forgetting who saved their ancestors, and that apology tasted like salt and hope mixed together. Back on Earth, Raina Holt received message that council government collapsed, not destroyed by warships but by its own people, by truth shown like bright knife-cutting lies, and she closed her eyes letting tears fall because she knew this victory was not hers. It belonged to thousands of unknown soldiers dead in ancient wars and dead today. Two sacrifices meeting across time like two hands touching through history, and she whispered into silence, "Debt repaid." Not with anger but with heavy relief of someone who carried history like stone and finally put it down. The new temporary leadership of the galaxy invited Raina to speak in the same hall where she once stood alone against 214 governments. But now when she walked in, no one laughed, no one whispered an insult, no one called Earth weak. Every species stood in silence like students waiting for teacher. Their eyes full of guilt, respect, confusion, hope, and she stepped into the center without guards again, without armor again, without fear again, and her voice echoed softly, "You asked for tribute. We give it now, not in gold, not in soldiers, but in truth." And she uploaded every old file, every forgotten name, every hidden history, every erased human victory, letting the galaxy see the full picture, letting history breathe after centuries of suffocation. And she finished with one sentence that broke the last chains. "If you want peace, stand equal, not above, not below." And that sentence was simple but it felt like new law written in stars, and ambassadors nodded, some crying, some touching chest gently like saying sorry. Outside the hall, a crowd of billions watching screens repeated her words, sending them through space like prayer, "Stand equal." And that phrase replaced tribute in every schoolbook, replaced slavery with alliance, replaced fear with memory, because truth once seen cannot be unseen, truth once spoken cannot be unsaid, truth once accepted cannot be erased again. The next days, council archives opened for free, people lined up to read history they never knew existed, children stared at images of humans saving alien children and asked teachers why it was hidden, and teachers did not lie anymore, they said, because power feared gratitude. And showing that answer to children was more beautiful than any treaty could be, because it meant future generation will learn truth without chains. In deep space, the Iron Resistance fleet powered down slowly like giants going to sleep after long battle, engines glowing faint then fading, ships holding names of heroes in digital memory, and Jonas Krell looked at stars whispering, "You can rest now," to those who died, and somewhere in the silence of space, it felt like stars blinked in agreement. On Earth, people filled streets not to celebrate war, but to celebrate truth, placing pictures of fallen soldiers next to pictures of ancient heroes from forgotten times, connecting two eras with candles, flags, flowers, showing that sacrifice never dies, it only waits until someone remembers it. Raina Holt returned to the ocean edge again, wind touching her face like soft hand of old friend, waves moving like breathing of planet, and she let herself cry for real this time. Not as leader but as human who carried weight of thousands of souls, and she remembered names she saw in ancient files, whispered them one by one into wind like offering to stars, and she did not feel victory, she felt peace. Because tribute system died not with guns but with truth, and that meant humanity did not become what they fought, they stayed who they are. Across the galaxy, planets removed tribute law forever, leaders signing new treaty called Alliance of Equals, where every species stands with open hands, not closed fists, and at the bottom of the treaty, written in simple letters, was a line that would be repeated for generations: "No tribute. Only alliance." And children on distant worlds grew up hearing not lies about humans, but stories of courage, stories of sacrifice, stories of standing alone against empire and forcing truth into light with unbreakable heart. And when moons rose over ancient Kar mountains, elders carved new words into memory stone. Humanity did not demand tribute. Humanity gave truth, because sometimes the greatest tribute is not gold or soldiers. Sometimes the greatest tribute is gratitude written in stone for those who saved you before you knew their names.